Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk, live and direct on a Tuesday. A wonderful Tuesday afternoon in the capital city, and we've got 3 hours of sports talk coming your way here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. You can catch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, or our Facebook page, WIBW News. And however you're listening to the program today, thanks so much for being a part of the audience. We're glad you're aboard for 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Lucero, flying solo for a bit. Spencer Dupuis will join later on. Brendan Dworzinski is off today. 3 hours of sports talk today, and we'll rip the Band-Aid off right up at the top. Man, it is not fun to watch the Kansas City Royals play baseball right now, is it? Boy, if you stayed up late last night, why? I had to watch all 9 innings. What was your excuse? If you stayed up for all 9 innings of a dismal 6-2 Royals loss in Seattle, first of a 4-game set against the M's. 2 teams are back at it again tonight. We'll have it for you right here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Pre-game coverage once again at 8 o'clock Central Time with the first pitch at 8:40. And I don't know, maybe you deserve some kind of like reward, maybe a medal or a certificate or something if you made it from the first inning all the way to the 9th of that game last night. But much like just about every Royals game of the mercifully concluded month of June, it was a difficult watch. The Royals just didn't look like they had much of a chance of scoring a lot of runs. And when the other team got more than 2, game felt over. And in fact, it was. Royals lose the opener last night. We'll talk about it, relive it as much as we care to, and also bring you some numbers that are increasingly grim and explaining why this Royals offense is so bad and just how bad they are. We refer to the advanced numbers, like the batted ball data, a lot on here. And I think there are times when advanced metrics can be comforting in a sense. If a team is struggling, but the advanced numbers are still good, you can say, okay, this is a bit fluky. Things are going to come around. They can be also very much a confirmation of what it is that you're seeing when you watch a team every single night. And in this case, the advanced numbers, the metrics, the data all confirms that this Royals offense is, no polite way to say it right now, struggling. There are less polite ways to say it than that, but that's where the Royals are. And again, nobody happier to rip the page that says June off the calendar and get to July than the Kansas City Royals. So we'll talk about that, and we'll look ahead to tonight's game. We'll see if Michael Lorenzen can throw a shutout, because he might have to. I mean, that's where we're at with the Royals pitching staff. I mean, those guys better bring a whole bucket of zeros with them because the Royals offense just not getting the job done. We're going to talk some football today as well. We'll, of course, continue our countdown to Chiefs Kickoff. We're at 66 days until the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil, week 1 of the 2025 campaign on Friday night, September 5th. And 66 is Mike Caliendo's jersey number. And when last we saw Mike Caliendo, was a game he'd rather forget. Super Bowl 59, no question about that. It was a rough game for him and a lot of his compatriots on the offensive line, so he had company. But Mike Caliendo, theoretically still in the mix for a starting role for the Chiefs. Does he really have a chance to win the left guard job? Would that be an acceptable outcome if Mike Caliendo ended up starting the most games for the Chiefs at left guard this coming year? And the value in the offseason of a good last impression, because Mike Caliendo didn't really make one of those in the Super Bowl. And again, he had a lot of company. There were 45 other guys who dressed in that game, and none of them left a real good last impression for 2025. But that may have been an opportunity. You know, there's a world where Caliendo holds up and plays well, and the Chiefs don't get Mahomes killed and win that game. And now we're talking about, hey, maybe Mike Caliendo's the future there at left guard. So a more honest accounting as best we can of Mike Caliendo as we look ahead to 2025. His number literally is up on our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. Also, I talk some Big 12 football today. They're not doing the preseason media poll this year. Big 12 Media Days start 1 week from today. K-State is Tuesday. KU is Wednesday, I believe. Plan is for yours truly to be there at the Star in Frisco with interviews and great content throughout next week here on 580 Sports Talk. But what we will not have to chew on for the week is the release of the preseason media poll. And the Big 12 could say whatever they want about why they're doing it. They're doing it because the team everybody picked to finish last in the league last year won the league. And they think that hurt the perception of the league, or at least was not helpful to the reputation of the league throughout 2024. So they're just doing away with the whole practice this year. Never mind the fact that you cannot do away with projections or expectations. We'll just use something different to refer to that's not the preseason media poll. But anyhow, you had teams on both ends of the spectrum last year. Obviously, you had Arizona State, picked dead last, ended up winning the league. You had a team like Utah picked to win the league, didn't even make a bowl. So who is most likely this year to be the Arizona State, the team with no expectations that ends up making a run at the conference title? And who is the team most likely to be the Utah, the team with high expectations that crashes out, maybe misses a bowl entirely? We'll go over the one factor that usually determines whether or not a team is better or worse than its expectation. And we'll noodle on that a little bit later on. We'll also get Michael Swain's thoughts on what he thinks, because he is our guest today. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joins us as he does every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly. We will not only talk some football with Michael, we'll also talk some hoops, because as has been the case this entire offseason, KU basketball news always breaks the day after we have Michael on. And so we had to wait 6 days, but we'll get his thoughts on Paul Mbia and his commitment to the KU roster. Also his reaction to the draw that KU got in the Players Era tournament in Las Vegas. That was released earlier today. So Michael Swain joining us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that. Plus everything else you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition, of 580 Sports Talk. Not skipping ahead 2 days. Looking forward to a 3-day weekend, but we're not there yet. A Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll have our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll get into what is wrong with you. Start of a new month on what is wrong with you. And we'll do a little random question Tuesday once Spencer joins the show as well. You are invited and encouraged to be part of the program today. Hit us up on the text line. That's wide open, 785-272-9429. We got one of those unlimited data plans. You can text us as much as you'd like, 785-272-9429. Also, if you're watching on our YouTube stream, you can interact with us and your fellow listeners throughout the show in the chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. If you have not, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Doesn't cost you anything but time. Just go search 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, youtube.com, or the YouTube app that I know you've got on your phone or your tablet or your smart TV, and go subscribe to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube if you have not already. And join the fray, interact with your fellow listeners, and grow the 580 Sports Talk community. Hello this afternoon to Christopher. Gonzo's in the chat. Love to see that. Mark H. Hello. Ryan. Hi. Good to see you. Vance, always great to have you in. Paul, same. It's good to see you all in the chat today. Looking forward to having you and more of you join as we go along here on 580 Sports Talk. I want to take you back to May 9th. You guys remember May 9th? There's no particular reason to remember May 9th. It was a fairly unremarkable day. The big news of that day was the inauguration of the new Pope, the Chicago Pope. our first Pope ever who has opinions on Jay Cutler. That was the big news May 9th of this year. It's a pretty mild day, 77 degrees. I might have gone and hit golf balls on my lunch break at work. Pretty unremarkable day, May 9th. It was a Friday. And on that Friday, the Kansas City Royals opened up a 3-game home series against the Boston Red Sox. And they won that game. It will probably not surprise you to hear it was a low-scoring affair at the K last night. 9 regulation innings of shutout ball both ways, and then both teams failed to push in the fake runner in the 10th. And both teams did score the fake runner in the 11th before Freddie Fermin won it for the Royals with a walk-off single in the 12th. That win moved the Royals to 24-16 on the season. And there were only 7 teams in all of Major League Baseball when the Royals' heads hit the pillow the night of May 9th who had a better record. Detroit, Cleveland, the Dodgers, Padres, Mets, and Giants. 2 teams in the AL, 4 in the NL. Those were the only teams in baseball out to a better 40-game start than the Kansas City Royals. From May 10th through last night, the only teams playing worse than the Royals are the Sacramento A's, who swept the Royals in that stretch, and the Colorado Rockies. The A's are 15-33 since May 10th. The Rockies are 13-33 since May 10th. And the Kansas City Royals are 15-30. 40 games of 600 winning percentage ball and 45 games of 333 winning percentage ball now for the Kansas City Royals following their loss last night, 6-2 in Seattle, that drops them to a season worst 7 games below the 500 mark, 39-46. I can tell you from some experience how miserable it has been to watch or keep an eye on the Colorado Rockies during that particular, really their entire season, but that particular 2-month stretch virtually. And watching the Royals has been every bit as bad. They've been every bit as bad. That's the company the Royals have kept now for over half of this season. 15-30 after a 24-16 start. And it feels like that, man. It feels like it. Watching that game last night, I'll just be honest, it gets harder and harder with each passing day to look at the product over the course of 9 innings and see a good team waiting to bust out. It is getting harder to watch the Royals and think, man, they just need the worm to turn. They just need one good day at the plate, one easy win, one series win. That gets the ball rolling downhill. It gets harder to see that as reality because the one thing that the Royals could do last year and did really well right up until September when they stopped hitting with runners in scoring position, and boy, they've never really started again after they stopped doing that in September of last year. The thing that the Royals did well last year and helped them make the playoffs and finish last season 10 games over 500 was that they treaded water. They won the series that they were supposed to win, and in tough stretches, they still managed to float. It was a struggle. There was some thrashing happening below the waters at times in last season's schedule. They had that late 6-game losing streak. They had a couple of 6-game skids last year, I believe. But they managed to rebound after those and just tread water and keep swimming. And this team can't tread water. This team just keeps sinking. And we're starting now to really only be able to see the occasional air bubble. Like, they're below the water enough. This is a tortured metaphor. Hang with me. We're starting now to only be able to see like a smidgen of forehead. Like, the arm is waving for help, but we can only see it about midway up the forearm all the way to the hand. I forget who it was with the famous quote. I'm going to look it up. Michael Ray Richardson, the basketball player, back in the 1980s, when asked to describe what was wrong with his team at the time, the New York Knicks. He said, the ship be sinking. And that is kind of what it feels like is happening with the Royals right now. And it just, every time you watch a game like last night with the impotence of this Royals offense, where when 7, 8, 9 come up in the order, that's when I go do the dishes. That's when I go check out the fridge and get a drink. That's when I excuse myself to the restroom, because I don't have missed anything 7, 8, 9 at the plate. You know, that is 3 outs, right? Especially when it's the outfield like it was last night. 7, 8, 9, all the outfielders. And a group of players. John Rave got a hit last night. I guess I shouldn't shortchange him. But it just gets harder to watch this team and see a good one struggling to burst out. Give you an example again last night. There were, of the 17 hardest hit balls last night, hardest hit batted balls in last night's game, the Mariners had 12 of them. Of the 8 hardest hit balls, every ball hit over 100 miles per hour. That's a seed off the bat, right? You hit it 100 miles an hour. There were 8 batted balls last night in Mariners Royals. 8 batted balls that exceeded 100 miles an hour. And the Royals had one of those. One of those. Why can't this Royals offense score runs? Why are they struggling? Why are they buried so deep in the league-wide stats? They don't hit the ball hard or far. And they ran into a team last night that did both. 3 home runs for the Mariners, accounting for, I think, 5 of their 6 runs. I think that's correct. Arozarena had the solo early. He had the 3-run homer that broke the game open off of Walker in the 5th. And then Cal Raleigh had the home run off of Lynch in the 7th. And I got to be honest with you, if you were still up at that point, still watching that game, I don't know how the hell Cal Raleigh hit that pitch out. Like, that was not a bad pitch from Daniel Lynch. It was a breaking ball, a little up, but it was off the plate away. That's not in the power zone. That's not something normally you're going to see a batter take out to the deepest part of T-Mobile Park. Cal Raleigh did it. I guess that's how he's got 33 dingers, right? Just that kind of year he's having. But again, doing damage on pitches, hitting the ball high in the air, hard and far. The Royals don't do that, man. They don't do anything. They don't drive. They don't hit to the warning track. They don't have warning track power most of the night. It's just a bunch of roll me over ground balls and weak pop-ups. You know, nobody pops up other than the Cleveland Guardians in all of baseball. Nobody pops up more than the Kansas City Royals. You guys know that? That feels right, doesn't it? Like, anecdotally, if you watch these games, it feels like that's probably true. I can confirm it is. The numbers are out there. Nobody other than the Guardians pops up more than the Kansas City Royals. And you don't want to be a team that pops it up a bunch. You know who else hits a bunch of pop-ups? The Rangers, who are one of the worst teams offensively in baseball. The Giants, who haven't hit in like 3 weeks. The White Sox, who are the White Sox. That's the company the Royals keep in pop-up percentage. And then the Guardians, who haven't hit a lick really all season either. They do not hit the ball hard. They do not hit the ball far. Other teams hit the ball hard and far. That's how you lose baseball games. It was a very routine loss for the Royals, and it never felt like they were going to do anything about it. How do the Mariners score all their runs? Ball over fence, ball over fence, ball over fence, accounting for 5 runs. How do the Royals get their runs? 3 straight singles. The last of them, a Bobby Witt Jr. ground ball with eyes with 2 outs in, I don't remember what inning it was. I think it was the 3rd, gave him the 1-0 lead. Yeah, would have had to have been the 3rd. And then how they get their other run? Single, walk, hit by pitch, fielder's choice ground out. That's how the Royals are struggling to come up with 1 run in an inning, and they run into teams who say, yeah, that's cool, watch this. You're gonna have to turn your head, but watch this. And it's not that the Royals have been particularly profligate giving up home runs either. They've given up 86 home runs on the year after the 3 big flies that they gave up last night. 86 home runs total allowed this year. I am endeavoring to find out where that ranks on the stats for this year, and eventually I'll even get there. I can tell you that would be below league average for an offense. The league, the median is 93 home runs for a team. The Rangers, again, who are one of the worst run scoring teams in baseball, they have 85 home runs. So 86 home runs is not a whole lot to have given up. It puts the Royals 6, 7, 8, 9, ninth. They are tied for ninth with the Guardians in terms of home runs given up. They've done a pretty good job suppressing the long ball this year, but that's still 86 and 58 for the Royals as an offense. I'm a big believer in the idea that your three true outcomes are pretty determinative, that if you hit more home runs than your opponent and you walk more and strike out less than your opponent, you probably got a pretty good baseball team. I tend to believe that usually follows, unless you've got terrible batted ball luck or your pitching staff really stinks. If you hit more home runs and walk more often as an offense and strike out less often as an offense, you're usually pretty good. Well, the Royals have been out-homered this year, 86-58. They have issued, even though they're one of the better command pitching staffs in baseball, they've only allowed 247 walks. That's still 45 more than they have drawn. Now, the Royals have struck out over 100 batters more as a pitching staff than they have as an offense. But it's the free base runners and it's the easy runs, easy, relatively speaking, the long ball, the surest way to build a rally. And the Royals just don't do it. They don't hit the ball hard. They don't hit the ball hard in the air. And the numbers don't lie on this. We'll get into a couple of more of those and talk about the company the Royals are keeping historically in franchise history, because they stand to be maybe the worst offense in Royals history. We'll discuss that a little bit. We got Random Question Tuesday coming up. And then, mercifully, perhaps, we'll get to some football. We're continuing our countdown to Chiefs Kickoff. We're going to talk some Big 12 football later on. Michael Swain is going to join us. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us. Just getting warmed up here on 580 Sports Talk, 3:31 on this Tuesday. A lot of folks sounding off in the YouTube chat. Appreciate all of you being here. Jayhawker, I think with the sentiment that many of you perhaps are feeling, I'm finished with the Royals. Time for football. Vance says Royals on pace to win 74 games. I'm predicting 68. They are playing very much like a 90-loss team right now. There's no question about it. I mean, they've played for the better part of 2 months now. I mentioned 15-30 in their last 45. That's a 54-win pace since they started the year at a 100-win pace in their first 40 games. You know, well, what are you? You're the 100-win team or you're the 54-win team? Hey, you're something in the middle, but it's not a good middle to be in. That's a middle that watches the playoffs in October. And then Ryan in on the YouTube comment saying, at least we're not the Rockies. Well, you've been uncomfortably close to them the last 2 months. Is all I'll tell you. Rockies 13-33 in that same stretch from May 10th to yesterday. Royals 15-30 from May 10th through last night's game. Big part of the reason we talk about hitting the ball hard. Baseball Savant quantifies this. There's a stat they keep. It's called a barrel. And a barrel is essentially, did you hit the ball at an optimum launch angle and exit velocity? Did you hit it hard and in the air, basically, but not hard and like straight up in the air, hard and at such an angle as is likely to produce a positive outcome? The league hits 677 on batted balls that are measured as barrels. That is the true batting average on balls that are barreled. They hit 677. That's everybody. On non-barrels, when you do not barrel the ball, but you still put it in play, the league hits 292. The Royals have the third fewest barrels per batted ball event in all of baseball. Less than 7% of the time when they put the ball in play, they barrel it up. That's ahead of only San Diego and Milwaukee. And those are teams that have like a bunch of slap hitters, but it's not like Kyle Isbell where you're a slap hitter, but you hit 240. They've got Luis Arraez on the Padres, who's a slap hitter who hits 330. The Brewers got their leadoff guy, Frelick, who's a slap hitter who hits 290. Like, there's a difference between those guys. So if it feels like, gosh, the Royals need to hit the ball hard. Yeah, they don't. They don't. Their batted ball events are more likely than all but two teams to be just kind of meh. Just a ground ball to third, a pop up to the second baseman, lazy fly to right, that kind of stuff. Another stat we mentioned, Fangraphs has weighted runs created plus. So on a scale of 100 is average, above 100, you are above average relative to the rest of the league and the run scoring environment of your ballpark and the league itself that given year. Below 100 is below average. These Royals here in 2025 have a weighted runs created plus of 83. They've been 17% worse than league average. And the only teams in Royals history to be worse than that are the 2001 and 2004 Royals. And for those who maybe don't remember the 2001 or the 2004 Royals, yeah, they were sorry. The 2001 Royals won 65 games. They had essentially 4 above average offensive players that year. Mike Sweeney had a really nice year. He was the token all-star for the Royals. Carlos Beltran, only 24 years old, coming into his own as a star. Raul Ibanez had a nice 104 games for the Royals that season. A late bloomer, if ever there was one. His Royals debut season went well. And Greg Zahn had a really nice 39 games. And those were the above-average offensive players for the 2001 Kansas City Royals. No, Jermaine Dye was not an above-average contributor that year. That might have been why he got traded even up for Neifi Perez. Great move there. Yeah, Jermaine Dye was not above average. Joe Randa hit 253 with 636 plate appearances. Ray Sanchez hit the emptiest 303 you'll ever see in your life. D. Brown played over 100 games. That team, not real good. The 2004 team, every bit as bad offensively. You remember 2004. High hopes, right? Coming off of the surprise contention of 2003 when they won 83 games. Tony Pena had everybody believing. Nosotros creemos. And then they won 58 games. That team had 3 above average offensive players. 4 if you want to count 35 games worth of 27-year-old DH Calvin Pickering. That's a delightful name to remember. The above average offensive players for the 2004 Royals were Carlos Beltran before he got traded, Mike Sweeney for the 100-odd games he was healthy, and Matt Stairs. That was the 2004 Royals offense. Although, like, there's fun names on that team, right? Like, you could build, if you could go back and you could get the best version of every individual player's career, like the best season of every player's career, and rebuild the 2004 Royals, you might end up with a pretty good team, because that team had Benito Santiago, who was towards the end, he was 39 years old. That team had 2-time MVP Juan Gonzalez in 33 games, didn't do much. That team also had a 23-year-old third baseman named Jose Bautista. Speaking of late bloomers. Plus Beltran and Mike Sweeney and David DeJesus is a rookie, and Matt Stairs had a nice career. Like, you built a pretty good lineup there if you got everybody's best year. Not really how it works, but that's the company the Royals are keeping right now. In terms of their offense, you have to go back to some truly miserable teams. And only the fact that this team has pitched as well as it has through now 85 games of the 162 has kept this team from feeling as miserable as any of those. Christopher points out the best hit the Royals got in 2001 was Mike Sweeney off Jeff Weaver. Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, we don't get baseball brawls like we used to. I was thinking this because I stumbled upon a 20-minute montage of Major League Baseball bench clearing brawls. The first one on the video was the late great Yordano Ventura and Manny Machado getting into it. The year the Royals fought with everybody, but really fought with Manny Machado. We don't get the brawls. We don't get ones like that anymore. I don't know why. Guys are too friendly anymore these days, I think. Maybe that's what the Royals need to wake them up. You know, Michael Lorenzen needs to go up under somebody's chin tonight and empty the benches, and rally the troops a little bit, a little esprit de corps for the Royals. Maybe that's what is needed here. Maybe that is what this team is missing, a good bench clearing incident. Or Matt Cotrero going out and getting ejected. I don't think we're far away from one of those, honestly. Like, teams are in a deep funk. Sometimes that's the thing a manager will do, is go out and get real animated over like balls and strikes or something, get himself tossed out, try and shake up the dugout. Haven't really seen that from Q. Don't think that's necessarily in his personality. That's fine. Doesn't mean he can't be a successful manager, but it's got to be something. It's got to be something. I don't know. Sacrifice a live chicken, something, because I can't watch this team play offense like this any longer. It is all-time franchise history bad right now for the Kansas City Royals, and I hate it. I hate watching it, and I really hate staying up till 11 at night to watch it. And again, I got to. I don't know what y'all's excuse is. I'll do it tonight so y'all don't have to. That is my promise. But man, I'd love to see it get better. I'd love to see the worm turn. But again, the advanced metrics offer very little hope in this particular case. We're going to take a break. We'll lighten the mood with some Random Question Tuesday. Spencer's going to jump in. We got more 580 Sports Talk coming up next. Random question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. I saw this one on social media, so I'm going to pose it to the listeners. You can, of course, participate 785-272-9429 or in the YouTube live chat. And I'm going to pose it to Spencer Dupuis. What is a sports take that you wholeheartedly believe, but you don't really like to talk about it because you kind of know it's a loser take? Like, you know it's a loser take, but you believe it anyway.
Oh, that's a hard one.
So this is my answer to this question. I 100% believe that the NFL fixed Super Bowl 40 between the Seahawks and the Steelers. The officiating in that game was so bad and so in favor of the Steelers that I firmly believe that they fixed that game because Jerome Bettis was playing his final game in his home city of Detroit, and it was Detroit's first Super Bowl in a while, and they wanted to give Detroit the happy ending. I absolutely believe that game was fixed. And I know that makes me sound like a moron and a sore loser, so I don't talk about it a lot, but I believe it. I believe it. So that's my answer to that question.
I don't really know. I think do we have any answers on the text line?
No. I'll try and see because I found it on social yesterday. Like one take is the Beastquake run by Marshawn Lynch wasn't that impressive because the Saints had a bunch of second stringers on defense that night.
Was it Darren Sharper on the field?
I don't believe Sharper was on the field. Let me see. Runs through the tackle, Jabari Greer, runs through Shanley, runs through Adell, runs through.
I thought it was Darren Sharper.
No, it was not Darren Sharper.
Safety in the league.
Not Darren Sharper. It was not Darren Sharper. Tracy Porter who got. Let me see some other ones here. The President's Trophy is a better measure of team quality than the Stanley Cup. I bet you've believed that a time or two.
Yeah. Yes. I also here's an NHL take. If you the President's Trophy is the most wins, right?
Yeah, it's the best record in the regular season. Most points.
If you win the President's Trophy, you're the best team in the regular season. Yes. There should be a asterisk. You had the best regular season of any team.
And it should be a bigger deal.
Yes.
Because
the Capitals have had the best regular seasons of any team. And then they go to the playoffs and they don't have the durability within the small window.
There you go. Here's one you'll appreciate. I'm looking at the thread. This was a Blue Sky tweet post, and I'm looking at the thread. And here's one from a West Virginia fan. Doc Holliday threw the 2010 Marshall-West Virginia game because he, like all West Virginia alums, views Marshall as a lesser they should never lose to. So he could not allow his alma mater to be embarrassed, played the wrong running back in key spots, and told his defensive coordinator to go to prevent too early.
I mean, that's all I think he was mediocre on purpose. He was mediocre at Marshall on purpose.
So, now we're cooking with gas. Now we're getting somewhere with these.
He was in 2016, Marshall was supposed to have a really good team, and they didn't. And I am convinced it's because he didn't care what his team did because he was like, well, West Virginia's better. When Marshall was projected to be better than West Virginia that year, they always have those best teams projected in each state. They do some college football websites do that. What's going to be the best team, best D1 college team in this state? And most of the time in Kansas, it's obviously Kansas State. This one year, it was Marshall. Marshall had 3 wins that year. And he let his players do whatever they wanted, including allegedly bring strippers into hotel rooms.
Fascinating.
Yes.
All right. You got a random question today?
Yes. So I'm leaving to go back home tomorrow for a vacation back to DC, back to Virginia.
Sure.
And I always find myself doing this when I'm packing. What is one thing that you forget while you're packing consistently? Mine is shoes. I wear the shoe because I have such large feet.
Okay.
It's hard to pack shoes. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I'll just wear these shoes. And then I realize I'm wearing blue shoes with something that doesn't match with blue or it looks ridiculous.
Okay. This is a not a me problem because I own one pair of tennis shoes and I buy a new pair of tennis shoes every 2 years. I buy a black pair of tennis shoes once every like 18 months. And those are my shoes. So I never like, and I'm going to wear them to the airport and I'm going to wear them in the plane. So I never have to pack a pair of shoes.
I don't know. Like I have these blue, like casual slip-on shoes. But then it's like, I was thinking last night, I was like trying to pack. Like I started packing last night and visualizing in my suitcase where everything was going to go. And I'm like, I'm going to make room for my Nikes because I'm not wearing them on the plane.
Sure.
But like, I'm probably going to want to wear them at some point.
No, so my wife actually has like a spreadsheet, like puts together a list. She is like, we just went on a trip. We just went on a family trip. And my wife is so like, she's a teacher, you know, so she's so prepared and she's got a spreadsheet and just goes down the list, checks off everything, make sure she's got everything in the medicine bag, the toiletry bag, every kind of shoe, every, you know, enough outfits, nice outfits, bumming around the hotel outfits, swim stuff. Cause usually when we go on trips to the beach or somewhere where the pools, we got to have, you know, appropriate, you know, swim apparel. And now the spreadsheet's bigger cause we're packing
for a baby,
packing for a 1-year-old. So she's so good. Like it is so thorough. It is so impressive. And she checks every single box and we don't forget anything. She doesn't forget anything. And Asher didn't forget anything. I'll pack the night before. I just like, all right, how many days are we gone? All right, 6. All right, 6 of this, 6 of this, 6 of this, 6 of this, maybe 7 pairs of drawers just in case. And just in case. So you know, better
that's usually me. That's usually me, but I did my laundry last night. So while I was folding it, I was like, you know, I pulled my suitcase out. It's out. It's sitting right next to the bed. I just piled everything on top instead of putting it away because I was trying to make less work for myself tonight.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
So I like
working ahead. Yeah. That's a logical thing to do. It's just never how I've operated.
Also, I have a second random question. When you're going to catch a flight, how early do you have to be there?
See, I like to be there at least 2 hours. And it depends now, like 2 hours is a must because you've got more stuff and a 1-year-old you got to account for. So now I think you got to be there like really early.
So our flight takes off tomorrow at 7:55. It's boarding at 7:25.
Okay. I think if you are there at like, and again, the airport is different. Like Denver's a huge airport and sometimes the security line is going to be really long. You want to make sure you're not feeling rushed trying to get through the security line. If you have an early morning flight in Kansas City, I'm pretty convinced for a 7:55 departure, I think you can get to the airport at like 7 o'clock.
That's what I think, but we're leaving at 5 a.m. So if that,
then you'll be there at like 6:15.
Yeah,
you know, 6 if you drive like a maniac.
Well, by the time you park, I got to park in the economy lot and then get the shuttle over. It's about another 15 minutes, so it's like 6:30 by the time we're getting into the airport.
Yeah, and that's probably appropriate.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, I'd say
Olivia was trying to leave at 4 a.m.
No more than an hour and a half. 2 hours, hour and a half. I'd rather be early to things. My preference is to be early. The thing that I forget, am always worried that I'll forget is usually either a phone charger or or like sunglasses. I'm really bad at remembering sunglasses. That's like a last minute. Oh man, I need sunglasses. We're going to the beach. I'm gonna need some sunglasses. And then sometimes I'll forget and you have to go to Walmart buy like a $10 pair.
But isn't that probably better though? Because then it's like you don't want to lose those sunglasses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you pack a nice pair, that might be one. I've got one nice pair, and it's probably about reached end of life. I got a nice pair of Oakleys I bought about 10 years ago.
Like Olivia just bought a brand new pair, and we were at Stampede over the weekend, and this one vendor was giving away free ones. And she goes, "Oh, I got sunglasses for the beach," because she's going to the beach after we go to see my parents. And I'm like, "All right, there you go. You don't have to bring your brand new pair that you just spent a bunch of money on."
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it's much better. And like my wife loses a pair to the sea every year.
Yeah.
Last 2 years, she's lost a pair to the ocean. So it would be that for me. That would be what I would leave. And then, as far as how early need to be to the airport, no, hour and a half, anything nearer to that is probably pushing it. But again, it depends on the airport. Like, you have pre-check, like where are you going? How much stuff do you have? Like I'm not going to hate on people who think, oh, I got to be there 3 hours before it takes off. Hey, maybe you do. It's just the worst part because we're early flyers. Mm-hmm.
Every time we catch a flight or either one of us, it's like before 9 o'clock.
Right. One of the cheaper flights.
Yeah.
To be honest about that.
And it's like one time Olivia had a 5:30 flight, and I was like, I might as well just not go to bed. Like, I had to drop her off. I was like, I might as well just go to bed. You go to bed at like 9 o'clock. I will just stay up all night.
Yeah.
And I will drive you there at like 2 a.m. and then I'll come back and sleep.
If you have a flight that early, you feel like, I can just sleep on the plane. You know what you can do? When you have a 1-year-old?
Sleep
on the plane. That's not happening. Ryan in the YouTube comment says, Dan's got to bring the Speedo. Listen, I wouldn't do that to y'all. I wouldn't do that to strangers at a resort. I wouldn't do that to the good people on a beach anywhere in this great country or any other. These legs will be modestly covered, and that's that on that. There will be no Speedo happening here. Not now, not ever. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up the 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. .356 on 580 Sports Talk. 1 hour in the books. 2 more to go. Royals baseball starts at 8 o'clock tonight with pregame coverage, 8:40 first pitch. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk some football. We'll talk some Big 12 football, talk about the end of the preseason media poll and which teams this year are most likely to be Arizona State and overachieve, or Utah and underachieve. And this is not to say, maybe there have been times the preseason expectations kind of fall in line with what actually happens. Last year was an odd year. Why was it such an odd year? And what were the conditions that created the wide margin of hit or miss when it came to projections in the Big 12? And do those conditions still exist in this year's Big 12? And who might those conditions benefit or hurt, as the case may be? So we'll talk about that. Which team seems more likely to outperform expectations and which team seems more likely to under-deliver. We'll also have Michael Swain join the program. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We will get Michael's thoughts on the latest happenings with KU basketball recruiting, KU basketball scheduling, KU football recruiting, and so much more. We are a week out of Big 12 Media Days, so plenty of football, of course, to get to with Michael as well. Plus, we'll start a new month of What Is Wrong With You. We crowned our June champion last night, and we're going to have 2 news stories on what is wrong with you today. So hang with us. We got 2 more hours of 580 Sports Talk coming your way after this break on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580wibw.com. You'd think I'd say that every day, 3 times a day, and I would never get it wrong, but hey, it happens. We're also in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Great to have you along. If you're just joining us, welcome in. If you've been with us, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of the audience for 580 Sports Talk. Want to hear from you as we go along today. 785-272-9429 is the text line, 785-272-9429. Also jump in the live chat on our YouTube stream. Again, the name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk, and you can interact with us and your fellow listeners throughout the show in the chat, which you can find really easily on the web browser and also on your mobile device if you are watching YouTube on a mobile device. Go subscribe to the channel if you've not yet as well. Again, the name of the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. And what the hell? Go follow the Facebook page, too, if you're not doing that, WIBW News. And you can watch us over there, too. Leave comments over there if you'd like. Lots of different ways to interact with the program, and we appreciate each and every one of you for choosing 580 Sports Talk to entertain you, or at least distract you on this Tuesday. Still to come on the program today, our countdown to Chiefs Kickoff continues. It is number 66, Mike Caliendo days until Chiefs Kickoff. Also a preview of Game 2 of the series between the Royals and the Mariners tonight. Royals trying to get right with an offense that doesn't really feel like it can. It's a rough go lately for the Royals at the bat. Also, Michael Swain will join us bottom of this hour for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. And we will get Michael's thoughts on everything happening with the Jayhawks at the bottom of this hour. Also have What Is Wrong With You coming up this hour as well. 2 new stories competing in our first What Is Wrong With You of the new month of July. You've been around long enough. This is your second year doing this, Spencer, so you've doubtlessly noticed by now. The weather gets hot, people get crazier.
Yep.
A lot of times, the wildest behavior is in the summer. People are out there in the streets, so it's a lot harder to undertake some reckless behavior. Like our guy, give me the tip or I empty the clip. I don't think he's doing that in January, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's January and he gets stiffed on a tip on a $100 delivery order, that was our June winner, by the way. Give me the tip or I empty the clip. We chose that winner yesterday. I sort of feel like if the next day it's like 15 degrees, you're thinking you have a different set of calculations as to whether or not you really want to get liquored up and go across town to confront the 19-year-old who didn't tip you. You might just leave well enough alone at that point. But now in the summer months, there's no impediments. It's hot. That booze gets to you a little quicker if you're out in it, especially if you're out in that heat. And, bad decisions are made. So this is not to say, of course, that all of our What Is Wrong With You stories are alcohol and drug-fueled, just that many of them are. And, you get a few more of those. In the summer months. So we're going to get there as well. I wanted to talk some Big 12 football today. No preseason media poll. We didn't get a chance to talk about that with you on the program. You were out last week.
Yeah.
But the Big 12 made the announcement. No preseason media poll this year. Your thoughts as a member of the media on losing your voice, in a sense. What do you think of the Big 12? I want to know what you think of the Big 12's decision to do that.
Well, I do remember a few years ago when I was working in West Virginia and loosely covering the Mountaineers, but listening to Neil Brown every time he spoke.
Okay. Oh, don't wish that on anybody, but okay.
There was one year where they were projected last in the media poll.
And
they finished like 8th or something. They were projected last, but the last team the last year had won. I can't remember what year it was. I just remember they were projected last, and the team that was projected last the year prior either won the conference or was top 5 in the conference or something. And Neil Brown went on like a 5-minute bender about how the media poll was worthless and about how, look what blah, blah, blah did last year. They were projected last, and If we're projected last, I think we're going to finish like 7th or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up, I think, finishing last.
Yeah. I mean, look, we don't always get it right? The prognostication business is a hard one. And we don't always get it right. We miss things and from time to time. And we misfired. We, the collective Big 12 media, misfired last year when it came to projecting the league because Utah was the projected champion and Arizona State was projected to finish last. And Utah didn't finish last, but they were a lot closer to last than first. And Arizona State won the damn championship and almost won a playoff game. So, yeah, we misevaluated last year. And the Big 12 conference, I don't know who thinks this. If this is Brett Yormark's opinion, if this is the opinion of a majority of the executive suite at the decision-making level of the Big 12 conference, doesn't really matter. But the decision makers took the preseason media poll away because they felt like it contributed to a negative perception of the Big 12 that the best teams in the league were ones that the media didn't think much of going into the season.
Yeah. So here I have the direct quote.
Okay.
This is from 2023, I believe, at Big 12 Media Days. When asked about Neil Brown about them being predicted last in the poll, I'm upset about the media poll. Definitely don't agree with that. The positive is the media, as far as predicting the Big 12, has not been very successful in recent years. So I think that bodes well for us, end quote.
And there you go. Yeah.
That was July of 2023.
So I understand that, like, again, the prognostication business is a hard business. And there is a negative perception of the Big 12 relative to the perception of teams in the SEC and the Big 10. But the preseason media poll didn't have anything to do with that. Like, that's just what it is. You can't change those terms. Those are the terms on which you are fighting an uphill battle if you were the Big 12, no matter what the preseason media poll says. You are fighting an uphill battle perception-wise because you are not the SEC and you are not the Big 10. And it's the same uphill battle that the ACC fights. And it's the same uphill battle that the Pac-12 had to fight when it was a serious conference. And not what it will be in the future, which is a conglomeration of kind of fun football teams, but not real championship contenders, all of whom are land-grant institutions. That is just the fight you have to fight. And there's no changing that. There's no taking away the preseason media poll is not going to change how the media talks about things if somehow your league championship game this year ends up being like TCU against Houston. Like, just because we didn't vote in July doesn't mean that if that's what your conference championship turns up as, and that would be a huge surprise. They just kind of pick those two teams arbitrarily. But it will still be a conversation that looks down upon the Big 12 because those football brands do not carry the same weight among the media, the Big M college football media, that the brands in the SEC and the Big 12 do. And there's no changing that. You cannot change that reality, no matter what you do with the preseason football media poll. You can't change that reality about yourself as a football conference. You are always going to have to fight perception. And you cannot create your own reality just by eliminating the preseason media poll. That all being said, just because we don't get to vote this year, Spencer, we'll still get to vote on, I believe, on all conference. I think the media still gets to do like preseason awards, preseason all conference, things like that. But there will still be preseason prognosticating that happens. There will still be publications like the Phil Steele annual. Do you buy the Phil Steele?
I do not.
No time like the present. It's at the Barnes and Noble, just down the hill. Get yourself the book the experts cannot live without.
Hey, I do know there's a misprint in it.
There is an unfortunate misprint in it. We're not going to get into that, but it's out there on the internet. It's amazing there aren't more typos, frankly.
There probably are. You just don't notice them.
Well, I found one. His synopsis of Kansas State in his Power 40 says they play Iowa week 3, which no. and also refers to Arizona State as the Wildcats, which no, they aren't. But, it happens. Self-publish, it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's still worth it. It's great information. But, he'll have his picks, and those will be pretty widely disseminated. And Athlon's college football preview is out there, and that'll be pretty widely disseminated. And, Kirk Herbstreit's going to sit on TV and predict who he thinks is going to win the Big 12. Desmond Howard's going to predict who he thinks will win the Big 12. And if those teams win the Big 12, then the perception is still going to be what it was last year when Utah wasn't any good. There's nothing the Big 12 can do about this. And there's nothing that the preseason media poll existing would have done about that one way or another. But in that spirit, in the spirit of last year's the last shall be first and vice versa, where Arizona State came out of nowhere and won the league despite being picked last, and Utah stunk it up despite being picked to win the league. The common thread last year when it came to which teams outperformed their expectations and which teams did not had to do with one very simple aspect. How good was your quarterback? We didn't think Arizona State was going to be particularly good at quarterback. Sam Leavitt ended up being, in fact, quite good at quarterback, and they won the league. We had no idea what to make of BYU's quarterback situation, and Jake Retzlaff had an outstanding year, so they finished in a 4-way tie for first. Flip side, we thought that Cam Rising was going to be the reason Utah won the league or contended at the top of the league, and then when he did get on the field, it was pretty obvious that his body was just completely broken down, and the backups weren't very good. Kansas State, I think, fits into this category because I think there was a lot of anticipation. And this is, again, not to say that Avery Johnson was bad last year, but I think there were, in a sense, some expectations that he didn't quite meet. He was a little more profligate with the football, turned it over a little more, dealt with an injury, wasn't as effective as a runner. He did not quite get to the level that I think the people who picked them to win the league last year expected that he would get to. So that's really the biggest thing is, how good are you at quarterback? Do we have a good gauge on how good you are at the most important position? That's why, for me, it's really hard to find a team that most of the experts think is going to be good that might not be, because I like the quarterback situations for a lot of teams that you would consider contenders. We know that Sam Leavitt is good. I absolutely believe there's going to be a leap for Avery Johnson this year for Kansas State. We know Rocco Beck can play. We know, if you're a Baylor believer, that Sawyer Robertson is exceptional. You feel really good about the quarterback situations, all those schools. There is one school, though, that I think it is a little bit of a question mark, and ironically enough, it's Utah again. I think Devin Dampier is a fun watch. I know you weren't watching a lot of New Mexico football last year. Hand up, neither was I. But I've seen the clips, right?
Yeah.
You see the vision with Devin Dampier. It's a crazy amount of athleticism. It's as good a dual threat skill package as I think exists in the league. And coupled with his offensive coordinator coming from New Mexico to Utah under Kyle Whittingham, everything is in place for Utah to get the best possible football out of Devin Dampier. But what does that look like? Is it just a guy who is really good at the mid-major level and maybe can't make that leap? Or is there a leap for him to make in Utah's system with Utah's talent around him? I'll give you an example. The guy who didn't make that jump last year particularly well was the quarterback from Baylor who was the transfer from Toledo, and he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year, DeQuan Finn. Remember him? I bet you don't. I bet you don't have a lot of memories of DeQuan Finn as the quarterback at Baylor, because he lost that job in a New York Minute. Now, Baylor was very fortunate. Sawyer Robertson ended up being as good as he was. But DeQuan Finn was, I was talking about Finn last year the same way I'm talking about Dampier coming into this year. This is a guy who showed a tremendous amount of ability as a runner, as a thrower, a little iffy on the turnovers, but like a big-time talent. Like it pops when you watch him on film, but it's also popping against Mountain West talent. And the Mountain West is slightly better. It's better league than the MAC. I shouldn't say slightly. It's a better league than the MAC, but it's also not the Big 12. It's also not, P4 football. So that is my concern with Utah. That, to me, is why. And I tend to think that most of the teams that are going to comprise the preseason contender class in the Big 12 belong in that class and will be good. That's against the prognostication business, right? You don't pick a team to finish high in the league and say, but also I think they might actually be stinky. Like that's not how predictions work. But if there is one team that I feel like ceiling is a league title, but they have the lowest floor of that group, I think it's probably Utah because of the quarterback situation. If they get it right with Devin Dampier, wouldn't be surprised to see him in Arlington. But if Dampier is just a guy who's a mid-major talent, then you have to wonder about some other things with that Utah program, like how invested is Kyle Whittingham at this stage in his coaching career? When we had people on our airwaves last year tell us, I think this might be it for Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah.
Like, is he back invested? Is he back in the game? I think that's an open question. Which team for you that is in the consensus contender class might have the lowest floor like that in the Big 12?
Oh.
Because it's a hard question, because if you think they're in the contender class, you think they're really good, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Kansas is a contender.
You consider Kansas a contender.
But I also think there's a floor for them.
Sure. Understood.
Especially after last year. But we went into last year thinking Kansas was a contender too.
Yes, they felt like a contender last year.
And they were the floor.
Yes, there was a lower floor than we realized, again, because of the performance of the quarterback, where Jalen Daniels great in the second half, but in the first half wasn't. It was substandard quarterback play, and it dug them too deep a hole. So the flip side of this is, which team are we all going to bury in a week when we're all in Frisco for Big 12 Media Days? Which team are we going to roll our eyes at and has the best chance of actually being good? I'm between two teams here. The two teams that I think, these two teams I think most people will expect will be bad, Cincinnati and Houston. And the reason I lean Houston is because I like their coach better. Cincinnati brought back a lot of starters. They have one of the best defensive players in the conference in Dante Corleone. Brennan Sorsby was actually pretty good last year. Like, he wasn't awesome, but he was above average and returns for another year as a starter. That's always a plus. But Cincinnati's kind of got a tough schedule. They've got to play Baylor and TCU and Iowa State and Utah and Kansas and BYU. They got to play a lot of the teams that you consider to be towards the top half of the league. And I think that's going to make it harder on Cincinnati. Also, I don't think much of Scott Satterfield as a head coach.
Yeah, I don't.
That's a running bit on this program. But don't think very highly of Scott Satterfield. I do think very highly of Willie Fritz. I have some concerns about how good Connor Wegman actually is. He was a 5-star recruit, went to Texas A&M, never really got a chance to take a stranglehold on that job. But now he's at Houston. They got a bunch of returning guys. They're year 2 under Fritz. They were better last year than they had any right to be. And they've got one of the easier schedules in the league. They only have to play 4 teams that are in Phil Steele's, what he considers the contender class. They've got to play Baylor, Arizona State, TCU, Texas Tech. But that means they don't have to play Kansas State. They don't have to play BYU. They don't have to play Iowa State. 3 real salty football teams they don't have to play. They get Colorado, who I think is going to stink. And then they get Oklahoma State, UCF, Arizona, and West Virginia. All of those teams I think are going to be varying degrees of poor.
Yeah.
I trust their coach. I might trust their quarterback. That to me feels like the deep, deep sleeper where, like, would I pick him any higher than like 13th if I still had a preseason media ballot? I would not. But that feels like the team we would bury that has the best chance to have a little more ceiling than that. And it's all about their schedule and their head coach. What team would you put in that category? Team that we might be burying on July 1st, but might have a chance if things break right to get to Arlington.
West Virginia? If it all goes right.
Okay, sell me on West Virginia, because is Nico Marchiol good? Like,
that's what I'm saying. If it all goes right.
He's played a lot of football. I would love it to work for Rich Rodriguez. I have a soft spot for Rich Rodriguez because I thought he got railroaded at Michigan. I thought what happened to him at Michigan was disgraceful. I think he's one of the most innovative college football coaches of the last quarter century, and it makes good sense for him to be back at West Virginia. They've also got a murderous schedule. They've got 5 away games in the Big 12. They have to play Arizona State. They have to play BYU. They have to play Utah. They have to play Tech. They have to play TCU. They have to play Kansas. They have to play Houston. They have, according to Phil Steele, they have the second toughest schedule in the Big 12 this year. Only Colorado has a tougher schedule. Where the flip side of that is Kansas and Houston have the 2 easiest schedules in the league, according, again, to Phil Steele's rankings. I don't see it with West Virginia unless... Yeah, man. I don't see, unless Marchiol's really good.
That's what I'm saying. If it all works, there would be a team that you come out of nowhere and think about.
Yeah, like I would probably have them. Yeah, I'd have them bottom 3 in the league, I think, on my preseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be bottom 5. Like, I think there's.
Mm-hmm. But you think, like, so your basis for saying there's more ceiling for West Virginia is
the coaching staff.
Just a breath of fresh air.
The coaching staff, and if they can make Marchiol work, right?
Right.
I mean, Neil Brown just didn't have a good coaching staff.
It felt stale at West Virginia, and maybe something fresh, it's not brand new, obviously, but something that is new to those players.
The culture, too. Like, college football is about culture, and I think the program culture is a lot better. And I think there'll be more, like, if you're going based on, like, noise that the program brings, they would be a program that brings more noise than they did last year.
I think that is absolutely true. Whether or not they are good or not, there will certainly be a little more juice from that program, because Neil Brown was maybe the most juiceless individual to coach a Big 12 team in the last.
Yeah.
Who not named David Beatty since David Beatty. How about that? Yeah.
But I don't, like, realistically, I don't think they're going to do anything. Like I said, bottom 5 in the conference.
Right.
But
you think they've got a little more ceiling than the rest of those bottom 5 teams?
Yeah.
Man,
but like, if everything goes right and Marchiol's who you recruited him to, like, who he was recruited to be.
He was a high 4-star, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he a runner? Like, are they going to do some things with his legs? Or?
I think so. I mean, he's coming. I remember he came in last year and played in some games where he was running.
No, Pat White, but
no. Pretty sure Pat White's on the staff.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's the assistant quarterbacks coach and assistant to the head coach.
And good for Pat White, all-time NCAA football video game legend.
Noel Devine on the.
Holy cow! They really are bringing the band back together, aren't they?
Yeah.
Where's Steve Slayton?
I don't think he's on the.
Oh, that's too bad. Owen Schmidt?
No, because he's a high school football coach.
I know Pat McAfee has a job, and now I'm out of Bruce Irvin.
I don't think so.
It's too bad.
Jake Castile?
Bruce might still be trying to play somewhere. We got to take a break. Michael Swain's going to join us here in a little bit. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. It's a new month on What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. It is sponsored by our buddy Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan. Mo Winkle. You don't want to be a part of somebody's What Is Wrong With You story, but if you are, Mo's the guy to call for insurance needs. 785-273-1572. That's how you get a hold of Mo. Brand new month, 2 new stories. I'm going to go first. First story of the month of June. We go to College Station, Texas. Go Aggies. And we meet 42-year-old Michael Valadez, who attacked a man because he believed he was acting suspiciously around children. What was he doing that was so suspicious? He was trying to sell him ice cream because he was driving an ice cream truck. Valadez allegedly punched the ice cream truck driver multiple times, stole his phone, and threatened to shoot him. He reportedly told officers he believed the driver was acting suspiciously around children, claiming he saw the man take phones from kids and give them his phone number. The driver told police the children were using their phones to pay for treats via Apple Pay and Cash App. He also says he shares his numbers with customers so they can call him to come back to the neighborhood. After further investigation, police determined the ice cream truck operator had not engaged in any inappropriate or illegal behavior. Valadez was charged with robbery and unlawful possession of a firearm. Man, like, I hate this guy. Like, the nerve. You got a gun, so you think that makes you neighborhood watch. He's obviously selling ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's what's happening. Transactions are being made. People pay with their phone. Children pay with their phones now. That's the thing. I don't know how I feel about, like 10, 11-year-olds having cell phones. Another conversation for another day. Doesn't matter. I just don't know how you look at that and you get suspicious. But I guess, like, that's a commentary on the world we live in. Is that could be seen as suspicious behavior, and all that guy's trying to do is sell some ice cream and make a couple of bucks and make some kids, put a smile on kids' faces. You know how excited I was when I was like 8 or 9 and I heard that ice cream truck coming down the street?
Yeah.
Because it was really rare. I lived in a suburban neighborhood. It was not like the ice cream truck would just roll up on the regular. It was every now and again we'd hear that ice cream truck. And I was so excited, and I'd ask my parents for $1. I'd go get a push pop or something. He's just trying to put a smile on kids' faces, getting some ice cream on a hot day, and this guy beats the hell out of him for it. Just terrible. It makes me sick to my stomach. Anyway, your story.
Yes, we are going to Sarasota, Florida. A Florida man has been charged with orchestrating a multi-county construction fraud scheme that defunded at least 13 victims across 7 Florida counties, resulting in more than $3 million in losses, the Florida Attorney General announced Monday. During the arrest of Seth Bloom of Sarasota, the execution of the search warrant, investigators said they uncovered a large amount of firearms and ammunition, despite Mr. Bloom being a convicted felon. He's facing multiple felony charges, including scheme to defraud, misuse of construction funds, grand theft, wire fraud, forgery, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of ammunition by a convicted felon. As part of the joint investigation by the Sarasota Police Department, the Office of Statewide Prosecution, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, law enforcement seized 64 firearms, 14 handguns, 50 rifles and long guns, over 10,400 rounds of ammunition in more than 14 different calibers, computers, business records, and additional evidence linked to the fraud. He was arrested Wednesday and is currently being held in Sarasota County Jail. This remains an active investigation. So
there
could be more to uncover.
That's a lot of guns.
What do you need that many guns for?
Yeah, unless you're like selling them retail. Like, yeah, he had a whole he very paranoid, which I think I would be if I was running a $3 million fraud scheme.
Yeah,
as well. I don't think that beats the ice cream truck guy.
No.
Oh my God, that makes me so mad. The ice cream assault. That's going to be our first winner on What Is Wrong With You for the week. What Is Wrong With You, once again, brought to you by our guy, Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan. Mo Winkle. You can give him a call at 785-273-1572. Like, very few of these stories like actually make my blood boil. You could beat up the ice cream man because he thought he was being weird. He's selling ice cream.
He's trying to make it
weird about living. That. Trying to flip a buck. What was your go-to, real quick? What was your go-to when the ice cream man came through?
Oh, it was a cookie sandwich.
Nice. The Chipwich.
Yeah.
Classic choice. Great choice. Man, now I want one. Gonna take a timeout. Michael Swain will join us. That's a treat. Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a subscriber to 24/7 Sports today. Get access to all of Michael's VIP info as he covers the Jayhawks all year long. Michael, we just had a story about that involved an ice cream truck. So I'll start with this one. What was your go-to when the ice cream man came through the neighborhood? What was the go-to treat when you were a kid?
I love the oh man, I can't remember the name of it, but the SpongeBob pops. I think they had like the bubble gum.
Yeah.
I think for eyes for SpongeBob, that was always one I loved. And yeah, that's like a core memory of mine actually. Like after soccer practice, having the ice cream guy walking around with his little trolley and stuff. Yeah, that was always my go-to.
Spencer's the Chipwich guy. I like the drumsticks.
Those are good.
Those are always a solid choice. And we just it's a hot day, and we had an ice cream truck story, so thought I would start with a little bit of that. Let's talk some KU basketball because as is our custom, news breaks on a Tuesday, always, or a Wednesday, the day after we have you on the show. Happens every time without fail, all off season. Paul Mbia, or is it Mbaya? I believe it's Mbia. Is a Kansas Jayhawk. Going to be a freshman for the 2025-26 season. Going to be the backup to Flory Badunga. What does he bring as a player right away to Bill Self's roster?
Yeah, this is a really interesting addition, especially when you compare it to some of the other centers that KU was looking at for that backup spot. You know, you look at two of the other guys we talked about previously, Desert and Demir. Like those are two guys that are kind of big, more physical guys that played the center spot, and I think were maybe more of that plug-and-play, veteran experience type of guys. And then you look at Mbia, and his experience is mostly playing at the U21 level in France. And so that is not necessarily the same as playing, right, for the first team, if you will. And so he is a little bit more of a raw prospect. He hasn't played against the grown men like you've seen some of these other international prospects. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at some of the tape. If you go out on YouTube and look up, you know, the compilations and stuff, he's not playing against kind of the quote unquote pros. It's against fellow kind of under 21 players. But man, when you look at what he bring to KU this fall, it's a lot of upside, and it's very similar to Flory insofar as they both are incredibly long, incredibly athletic, really good shot blockers, really good guys that can finish around the rim if they keep the ball up. And they're kind of both the guys that kind of need to develop post game, aren't going to be the most physical bruising players. But one thing I do like about MB is that he measured at the Adidas, I think, Euro camp it was, 6'11", 7'8" wingspan, and he weighed in at 240 pounds. Like that's a solid weight measurement for someone that's 6'11". Not crazy, but good. And so I think for KU, it's another guy that brings plenty of upside. You're not going to have to change your style of play when you bring him off the bench. You're going to be able to do a lot of the same things you do with Flory. And so I think that continuity, and then, if you guys want to play the long-term game, we can, let's say Flory hits it big this season and he is a first-round pick next year. Well, then you've got someone in Mbia that is has that upside, would have a year of experience at that point playing for KU. And so there's just a lot to like about this edition, short-term and long-term.
We know that Bill Self has in the past liked to play two big lineups. Do they have an opportunity, those two, Mbia and Badunga, to maybe complement each other in some supersized lineups for KU, or are they too similar skill set wise where it might make more sense to have just one as a straight backup for the other?
Oh, this is Bill Self we're talking about. There will be some two big lineups, and it will not be pretty. They are two very similar players. They do not play outside of the paint very well. This is very different than playing Flory at the 5 and Hunter Dickinson at the 4, where Hunter can go play on the perimeter, right? That was not an issue for him to go stand, at the top of the key or on the wing while Flory's down in the post or on a pick and roll. I don't think it's a too big lineup that would necessarily be super sexy. But I'll tell you what, there's going to come a time in early January when, maybe Trey White's frustrating him or is in foul trouble and Self's like, screw it, we're going with the two big lineup. And, KU may not score very much, but also nobody's going to get a single shot off in the paint on the other end of the floor. So I don't know if it's something where you'd expect them to play 5-10 minutes a game together, but I think in some spot situations, you're going to see Bill Self do it.
We're talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Earlier today, we saw the schedule for the Players Era event coming up in November that Kansas will be participating in, I believe, the week of Thanksgiving. Monday and Tuesday, November 24th and 25th, KU will play a pair of games. They will play Notre Dame on Monday and Syracuse on Tuesday. First of all, when you look at some of the teams that are in this event, KU kind of got a light draw, it feels like, in a positive way.
Yeah, and that was something I mentioned on our message board today. Was like, I kind of thought we'd see KU get kind of one of those, in this tournament, what is probably a cupcake game, right? You're not looking at playing St. John's, for example. I thought KU would get a Tennessee or a St. John's, and that would be a game you'd see, but I guess they're going to try and, the way this is going to work, where it's going to come down to kind of, you got to go 2-0. It's going to come down to point differential, how many points you score, and how many points you limit your opponent to. This seems like they are very much trying to make it where KU is going to play in that championship game. That's how I kind of have taken this when I'm looking at some of the other matchups. And if that happens, KU probably will play a Tennessee or maybe a St. John's or maybe a Houston, a team like that. But yeah, it was interesting because I think we're so used to seeing in some of these kind of other Thanksgiving feast week style, you kind of see KU play at least one super high level marquee game, one kind of mid-level kind of, your top half Big 12 team caliber type of game, and then one kind of lighter game. And, Syracuse and Notre Dame, I don't think are going to be a top half of the Big 12 level team. I think they're more of a bottom half of the Big 12 level team. So, two easier games for KU in terms of looking at it on paper, and that should set them up to go play for that, $1 million prize at the end of it.
It's an interesting fact about the Players Era. It's an 18-team event, and only 4 teams get to play 3 games. And like you were alluding to, there will be a championship game, there'll be a consolation game. there could potentially be a bunch of teams that go 2-0 because it's an 18-team tournament and you only play 2 games. So your point differential is going to factor into where you seed at the end of it. But are coaches going to be like thrilled with the idea that they've entered this event and they might not get the full 3 games? Whereas, like, if you play in Maui, you get 3 games. You go the Battle of Atlantis, you get 3. You could play 2 games, play well Monday, Tuesday, and get boxed out on point differential and not get a 3rd game. Do you think that's I almost feel like that's something that the Players Era has to that's why they're going to expand it next year, right? You can't short teams an extra game.
Well, here's the biggest difference, right? It is a whole heck of a lot cheaper to pay to go be in Las Vegas and have your team play there than it is to go to Maui or it is to go to Battle for Atlantis. And the fact that these teams are all getting $1 million on the front end, we're in the era of revenue sharing, right? It's July 1st. It's official, right? Schools can start paying these athletes. The money makes up for it. It's 1 game. It's not the end of the world. I don't think coaches are going to get too up in arms about it when they can go back and look that they are bringing in $1 million in an era where you are trying to raise upwards of 20 million every single year. They'll take that. And so is it something that should be corrected? Is there a way where maybe it turns into being a 3 or maybe 4 game type of tournament? I think so, especially now that you're looking at, some schedule changes potentially coming where teams can play 32 games in a season. It wouldn't shock me if we look at the Players Era down the road and they kind of do it a la, FIFA World Cup where, you play kind of 2 games and then they rank everybody kind of how they're doing now. But then from there they take, you make it kind of more of like a tournament style outside of that, and you can make different sides of the bracket for it. That's something I could see happening. But for this year in particular, I don't think you're going to see coaches complaining because they will take that $1 million to the bank every single day of the week.
Michael Swain is our guest, covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Joins us every Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly. Let's get into some football. You've had a chance to, make a little bit of the podcasting rounds a little bit. You were on the Cover 3 podcast, their summer school series, not too long ago. And as you've gone along and had conversations like that with some people with more of a national perspective on the Jayhawks, what is the question that you feel like keeps coming up the most about this Jayhawk team?
Well, I think the first question is what the heck happened last year?
Right.
That is very much the first question that comes up. But I think there's definitely some intrigue with the coordinator changes. You go from Jeff Grimes and everything that did not work with that to Jim Zebrowski, where, look, we don't know how this is going to play out, right? I think you can like the idea of it, where you can say, okay, KU's going to get back to what they did in 2022 and 2023. They're going to, attack the middle of the field more. They're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Like, you can like it in theory. We still have to see it play out. So there's some intrigue there. And then I think there's some intrigue on the defensive side, right? You're changing defensive coordinators. You're kind of keeping the same scheme. But I think that's what people are on the outside at least kind of interested in. Then, of course, there's the whole Jalen Daniels conversation, right? Back for his 6th year, his last year in college. I think he has kind of fallen off of the national radar a little bit, right? We're 2 years removed from him being the preseason Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, right? There was plenty of cachet that came with that nationally. And then obviously misses the season with the back. He kind of does fall off the national radar slightly. But then it's a big story that, hey, he's back at KU and, they return all this stuff. Hey, can he lead KU? And then obviously he has the season he has where it's inconsistent. It's poor level of play, at least to start the year. And technically, I guess, to end the year against Baylor. But now he's back. And so I think those are kind of the 3 big topics that people are interested in. And then I think as you get into the weeds more, people that are maybe more Big 12 fans or really college football diehards, I think they're really interested to see what happens with the transfer class that KU has, because this is really the first time that Lance Leipold has kind of picked a roster, right? He was very much the coaching staff did such a great job developing a lot of those Les Miles recruits. And look, there have been plenty of successes so far for KU, especially when you look at the transfer portal, right? Dominic Pooney, Austin Booker, you can go up and down the list. You can also look at some of these high school guys that are coming through, like Blake Harold, Taylor Davis, even Cole Ballard to some degree. Now it's just a question of, hey, this coaching staff went out and really did kind of build this roster through the portal. How does that go? I think that's something that the people that are more in tune with college football, that are not necessarily just stat glancing and looking at the changes at coordinator, the people that are really looking at this stuff, I think are very interested to see how this plays out for KU with the transfer portal class, because it's going to have such a big impact on what KU is able to do this fall.
Last one for you, Michael. We have about a minute. You've done some breakdowns on the fog.net under the VIP paywall, position by position comparisons of KU on offense and defense in 2024 versus 2025. I want people to subscribe and read what you have to write, but I do want to ask you this. At what position group did you have the easiest time saying, oh, yeah, KU's a lot better here than they were last year?
Oh, it's got to be linebacker. That was one of those where that took me about 5 minutes to write. Some of the other ones took me longer. Like, I had to go back and look at the numbers and really try and track down, what happened last year. What were the actual numbers? Are those feasible things for someone to achieve this year on this year's team? But then I got to linebacker, and I was just like, if you're at practice and you walk around and you watch the linebackers go through drills and you watch them play their previous, you just know that this year's linebacker room is more talented than last year. Right? Take the top three. Tylen Berryhill, J.B. Brown, Cornell Wheeler last year. I think Cornell and J.B. had some good moments. Man, it was rough though sometimes. And there could be rough games, right? But I think you look at Bengala Kamara, Trey Lathan, Joseph Sipp Jr. Those three guys are better than what KU had last year. And so that was a very easy one for me. And I think linebacker is really the position I'm most excited to watch on defense, because it's going to be such a big change compared to what it was like in the past.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and you should absolutely be a VIP subscriber so you can get access to all of Michael's outstanding reporting and writing. Michael joins us every Tuesday on the Flaming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Always a pleasure, Michael. We'll catch you in Frisco next Tuesday.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. Talk to you later.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll wrap up the 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Michael Swain of fog.net for joining us for the Jayhawk Weekly segment. Always great to hear from Michael. Look forward to hearing from him next week at Big 12 Media Days, and then we'll have to figure something out because he'll go on his honeymoon after that. So we'll find a sub for him somewhere down the road if we need to. But always great to hear Michael Swain's perspective. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we have our 580 Sports Talk headlines, of course, including a team traded for a retired NFL player today. And I guess he's not
I don't understand.
gonna be retired anymore. Today's episode of What Are the Dolphins Doing? Following yesterday's, and maybe there'll be a recurring segment on the show. Who knows? Also, we continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. It is Mike Caliendo days until Chiefs Chargers in Brazil. And a look at game 2 tonight of the Royals Mariners series. That's coming up tonight here on 580 WIBW. 8 o'clock pregame, 8:40 first pitch. Stay with us. We got more hour of 580 Sports Talk, and it's coming up next. Let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk for this Tuesday afternoon, the first day of July in 2025. Thanks for being here. If you're just joining us, welcome in. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is across the glass. We've got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk here today on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And on video, our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you're checking out the show today, whether you're checking us out live or you're catching up in podcast or video archive form, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here on 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again one more time to Michael Swain, Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, for joining us at the end of the 4 o'clock hour. Good insight and the latest with KU basketball and some KU football talk as well. If you missed it, of course, you can catch the audio podcast at our website, 580WIBW.com, and on Spotify by searching for 580 Sports Talk. And if you missed it and you want to catch up on our YouTube stream, you can do that as well. Full archives available on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you're just getting to the video and you want to say, yeah, you know what, I'll catch up with the headlines and everything you're doing right now. I'll catch up a little later on, but I really want to hear what is wrong with you or whatever it is. Rewind. Be kind, rewind. You can do it while the show's running. You can do it after the show gets archived. You can catch up on back episodes. You want to know who won What is Wrong with You on May 9th, the last day the Royals were good this year. You can go do that. That's it was the Cool Mom, by the way. That was Friday. Cool Mom won the week that week. Our May winner, the Cool Mom. Anyhow. So, again, lots of ways you can interact with and digest the show, and we appreciate you doing it here on 580 Sports Talk. We got one more hour left today. Going to do some 580 Sports Talk headlines, get back into our Chiefs countdown to kickoff. 66 days until the Chiefs start the 2025 regular season. And Mike Caliendo is number 66. We'll discuss if the last impression that Mike Caliendo left us with in the 2024 season is a fair accounting of Mike Caliendo as a player, or if maybe he's got a little more to give than that Super Bowl disappointment would suggest. Plus, a look ahead to tonight's Royals-Mariners Game 2. I've decided I'm going to stop predicting that tonight is going to be the night the Royals offense is going to bust out, because we're 85 games in, and there have been a lot of nights I've looked at the starting pitching going up against the Royals and thought, this guy's gettable. He doesn't miss a lot of bats. He gives up home runs. Got an ERA in the fives. All of those things apply to the law firm of Emerson Hancock, who is tonight's starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. That's the only law firm.
Yeah.
That's why
I've got a proposition.
Okay.
So you, a couple weeks ago, took a flight.
Got on an airplane. Yes, I did.
And the Royals really went off the rails.
Yes, that happened. They lost 6 in a row when I was on vacation in South Carolina. They lost all 6 games. Let's
reverse that. And when I go on my vacation, the Royals can win 6 in a row.
Hey, I'm all for that. Let's do that. Let's switch up.
I'm just trying to put the good juju out there.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's switch up the mojo while you're on vacation. But as one texter puts it from the 785, appreciate the text. You can text the show 785-272-9429. Text from the 785 says, never saw a team like the Royals make every starting pitcher look like Cy Young. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I go into games all the time. It happens at least once or twice a week. Yeah, you know what? This guy the Royals are facing not very good. They can jump on him. Right-hander, gives up a bunch of home runs, walks guys, doesn't strike guys out. And you look up at the end of the night, and he's 6 innings, a 2-run ball, 1-run ball, and the Royals are losing. So I'm done making that prediction. If they want to...
We did speak the quick game into existence last night.
We did. It was done right at 11 o'clock. Was it not? I think it was like 11 o'clock. The final out was made. That was nice. I think I turned it off before Caglione's fly ball settled into who was playing right field last night. Was it Canzone? Yeah, Canzone's glove in right field. I had the TV off. I was on my way to brush my teeth and go to bed. That was the signal off the bat. I knew it was bedtime. So really should have been bedtime 3 innings before. It was bedtime as soon as Randy hit his second of the night.
Yep.
Where do you come down on Randy? Randy Arozarena, the jump shot, the little hezzy jump shot that he does with the third base coach before he rounds third on home run try. That's not for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, celebrate as you will.
I've always said this. You don't want a hitter to celebrate hitting a home run off of you.
Don't let him hit it.
Keep it in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And then when you strike them out, you also are entitled to celebrate as you see fit. You are entitled to celebrate your wins as you see fit, because it is really hard to succeed at the highest level of your chosen vocation. And you should celebrate your successes. And Randy gets a lot of dip on the chip, but I've always really liked Arozarena. A couple years back when my wife and I were on vacation, we were in the Tampa area. We went to a Rays game. This is when Arozarena was still playing for Tampa Bay. We got tickets right on at Tropicana Field, right on the rail in left field. And the whole night, everybody's yelling in the left field bleachers. Everybody's yelling out at Randy, saying, "Hi, Randy," because Randy, between pitches, will turn around and wave back. Randy Arozarena is the kind of guy who is putting on a show for the fans. That is the thing with Randy. He is always having fun playing the game. And if you know his story about how he got from Cuba to the United States, you understand how a guy like him might feel like every day is a celebration. Like every opportunity you get to play a baseball game is worth celebrating, and every home run you hit is worth celebrating, because none of those things were a guarantee when he was trying to get from Cuba to the United States. So I don't begrudge. Like, it's annoying when it's happening against your favorite team. It sucks. Nobody likes getting stunted on. That's no fun. But I love Randy. He's one of my absolute favorite players in Major League Baseball. And I love him because, like, if everybody did that, it would be obnoxious. But I'm okay with him doing it because I know where it comes from, and it doesn't come from a desire to show up the pitcher or the opposing team. He's just having fun playing baseball, putting on a show for the fans. And I am okay. I think baseball needs, you need the guys who put their heads down all the way around the bases, and you need the guys who have a little flair to the game.
Yeah.
You need the salt and you need the pepper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm big on Randy. I'm a fan of Randy. I was not a fan of him hitting 2 tanks last night.
Are you a fan of the big dumper dumping on the Royals?
Stop it. His name is Cal Raleigh.
Hey, his nickname's the Big Dumper.
We don't say that nickname on this show. I hate it. Is the worst nickname in sports. I hate it. You weren't around for that. Brendan gave me a hard time about it. Did he tell you to give me a hard time about it?
No, I just saw a post on X earlier that the Royals got dumped on.
Terrible nickname. So bad. Why are we talking about another man's backside? Who decided it was a good idea? And then to call it that. There's so many other ways. Like I said, if his nickname was Big Yeeks or Big Cakes, that would be much more amenable to me. Who was it that decided that's what we were going to call a man's backside? And that we were going to call him that, because it is a prodigious backside that Cal Raleigh owns. It is.
Apparently there are people with jerseys that say it on it.
Yes. Oh, I know. People are really, really all about the nickname. It's terrible nickname. Don't care for it one bit. I can't believe, I said this at the top of the show, I can't believe he hit that curveball from Lynch out of the ballpark. That was not a bad pitch. That was off the plate, away. That's a pitch you throw. You're trying to stay away from a guy's power. But sometimes when a guy's got 33 home runs halfway through the season, that means you can't get out of his power right now. Like there's nothing you can throw Cal Raleigh that's out of his power. So that was impressive. And hey, when he hits 74 this year and breaks Bonds' record, I'll say I got to stay up late enough to see one in Seattle against the Royals. Game 2 of the series coming up tonight. We'll preview it, bring you the lineups. That's coming up a little bit later on this hour. But I want to start with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we'll begin with something that we alluded to in our conversation with Michael Swain. The Players Era Festival schedule for 2025 has been released. This is the new 18-team NIL money event in Las Vegas coming up this November. The winning team gets $1 million in NIL funds. Each participating team is already assured $1 million in NIL funds. It is the second year of the event. Last year, 8 teams played in the event, and Kansas will play in the event for the first time. Now, there are a lot of marquee teams in this 18-team event. I am scanning the list right now. There are 10 of the 18 teams that finished last year ranked in the top 25. And you would think you'd probably want to have as many games between those top 25 teams as possible. Well, Kansas isn't playing any of the other postseason top 25 teams from last year. KU got a very friendly draw. They will play a couple of afternoon games, 2:30 tip-offs, Monday, November 24th. They'll take on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And then on Tuesday, same time, 2:30, they will face the Orange of Syracuse. That ought to be 2 pretty comfortable wins for Kansas. Notre Dame and Syracuse do not have the kind of talent that Kansas projects to bring into the 2025-26 season. And that should give KU a great chance to be one of the 4 teams that gets to play a third game in the tournament. Now, if there's a bunch of teams tied at 2-0, the tiebreaker is going to be point differential. And total points scored and points allowed will be the tiebreakers following that. But there will be a third-place game and a championship game on Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving. So that is KU's draw. There are other Big 12 teams in this event. Baylor is going to play Creighton and St. John's. That's a tough couple of days for Scott Drew's Bears. Iowa State is going to play St. John's and Creighton, so they get the exact same draw that Baylor got. Houston is going to play Syracuse and Tennessee in the event. So when you look at it from the Big 12 perspective, there's no question Kansas got the most favorable draw of those teams. That's the Players Era Festival with $1 million in NIL funds on the line for the winning team in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Garden Arena and Michelob Ultra Arena, November 24th through the 26th. Michelob Ultra Arena is at Mandalay Bay, for what it's worth, if you don't know your Vegas geography. They did not change the name of the T-Mobile Arena, I believe it is, there where the Golden Knights play. So that is your first headline. KU knows 2 more non-conference games at their MTE coming up before Thanksgiving. Give me a headline, Spencer.
On today's edition of What in the World Are the Dolphins Doing? They have traded the Giants. They have sent a 2026 6th-round pick to the Giants for a now unretiring Darren Waller and a 2027 conditional 7th-round pick.
So Darren Waller...
Wow. I can't believe I just said those words.
Darren Waller was a good player once upon a time.
Yeah.
Made a Pro Bowl. Retired last June. It's kind of an abrupt retirement. He was going through some things, working through some personal things.
Yeah, he had just gotten divorced.
Yes,
from WNBA star right?
Kelsey Plum. Yes, he was married to Kelsey Plum, plays for Las Vegas Aces, former Washington Husky, and they were married for a little bit, and then they got divorced. And then Darren Waller made a truly terrible music video about it, and then retired from football. Or he may have retired and then made the music video. I'm not sure. Anyway, go watch the music video, first of all. It will convince you that Darren Waller needed to find something else to do with his life because singing, not really his thing. Second of all, I believe we have the second modern instance of getting divorced so hard you quit your sport. Shout out to Ben Zobrist, who I actually don't blame Ben Zobrist for that one. His wife cheated on him with their pastor, and
that's wild.
Yeah, that's why he retired like in the middle of a season. Just called it a career, couldn't do it anymore. Like, man, that's rough. You ever get divorced so hard you quit your job? Like Darren Waller basically did. And now he's back. So Darren Waller, last seen with the New York Giants in 2023, he was reasonably productive, 52 catches on 74 targets in 12 games. He certainly hadn't reached the heights that he did 2019 and 2020 when he was one of the best tight ends in the game. Maybe not the best tight end in the game, but certainly one of the most productive offensive players in the NFL in 2020 when he caught 107 passes for nearly 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. The Dolphins, of course, just traded their starting tight end, Jonnu Smith, to the Steelers yesterday. in that big blockbuster deal that sent Jalen Ramsey to Pittsburgh and brought Minkah Fitzpatrick back to Miami. So apparently the Dolphins must have known all along they had a chance to bring Waller out of retirement. But yeah, it's a very strange thing. I didn't even realize the Giants still had Waller's rights.
Yeah, I didn't either. Well, I guess he was still under contract, right? If you're under contract.
He must have been. He must not have been. I don't know. I guess I don't know how the retirement process works.
Well, I don't know, because there's been times before Gronk talked about it. Gronk was the Patriots were going to trade Gronk's rights to the Lions, and he vetoed it and said he was going to stay retired.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I don't know how. I guess I just don't know how that all works. Like, if there's a formal retirement you gotta do, and if you don't formally retire, then the team that you last played for maybe maintains your rights unless you were a free agent. Yeah, there's a lot of threads you could pull out here, but yeah, very strange. I do not know what the Dolphins are cooking. I absolutely no idea. I also know that I do not think they're going to be a playoff team, and I don't think this move positions them to be a playoff team. Next headline.
Unless Darren Waller's rejuvenated and ready to be back to the guy we saw in 2020. I doubt it, though.
I have severe doubts that would be the case. Next headline for Pro Football Talk. Ohio governor signs Browns stadium provisions into law. The Haslam family got exactly what they wanted from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. He signed a new budget into law late Monday night, and it gives the Cleveland Browns, $600 million in state money for a brand new domed stadium outside of Cleveland in the suburbs of Brook Park. The $600 million comes from the state's unclaimed property fund. There is a class action lawsuit that has been filed arguing that unclaimed funds can't be used for public projects. There still needs to be more money that the Browns come up with to get this done. Cuyahoga County is not going to participate in this. There will not be any county funds for this. The stadium is anticipated to cost $2.4 billion. The Browns have managed to get a quarter of that from taxpayer funds. They've already bought the land for $76 million. They bought the 176 acres in Brook Park to build a domed stadium. Look, I don't like dome stadiums. I don't like dome stadiums. I feel like the NFL has sacrificed so much when it comes to the character of the places where the games are played. Think about in the league, who has a distinct home field advantage in the NFL? Think about a place that is distinct. Think about a stadium, a crowd that is distinct. What do you think about?
Your team. I think about the Seahawks.
Okay, yeah, Seattle.
12th man.
Certainly, they've had that. It hasn't been as good the last couple of years, unfortunately. But yes,
I think about the Chiefs.
At their best, they've had a big-time noise advantage up there in Seattle. Certainly Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah.
Arrowhead Stadium is absolutely one of the first ones I think of. Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Highmark Stadium in Buffalo is outdoors, and it's loud, and you have that weather advantage. And you get to January, and you're playing outdoors in the cold at home. That's an advantage for Buffalo, and it's an advantage for Kansas City. And I just don't think any of the modern NFL stadiums have the same kind of character as a place like Arrowhead Stadium or a place like Lambeau Field. Like, I think Denver lost a lot of what was special about its home field advantage. They'll always have an altitude advantage and rowdy and good fans, but they lost a lot of what was special about their home field advantage when they built a new stadium, because the new place is not the old Mile High Stadium. The Steelers Stadium, not Three Rivers. It's just the Washington football team. FedEx Field's not RFK Stadium.
Nope.
It doesn't bounce and sway like RFK used to.
Yeah.
And I would think that it would be the desire of an owner, a steward of a team, if they're going to build a stadium and you're going to have this place where your team is playing, wouldn't you factor in, like, hey, we want to win games here. We want our fans to feel welcome here. We want this place to be a fortress. We want it to be loud. We want to use the elements to our advantage because, Cleveland, right on the lake. Yeah. You get the lake effect weather.
Yeah.
Instead, the only consideration, and this is true about Clark Hunt and the Chiefs too, the only consideration anymore when it comes to building a new football stadium is, hey, can we get a Super Bowl? Do you think if we put a dome on this, they'll give us a Super Bowl? So that's the primary consideration for every new football stadium. Not how do we harness our home field advantage? How do we best serve our fans? How do we maintain something that is special about our fans and our city and our team? No. Job one is, do we get a Super Bowl? And you know what? I bet Cleveland gets a Super Bowl. One. Just like I bet Kansas City, if they get that dome stadium, wherever they put it at Legends, they put it at the Truman Sports Complex, I bet they get a Super Bowl. One. I bet you get one Super Bowl. Was it worth it? Will it be worth it to give up something special, innate about your team for one Super Bowl? It might be worth it for the Haslam's pockets in Cleveland, but is it worth it for the Cleveland fan? Is it worth it for the Browns fan, where now you got to hump it up to Brook Park for games and sit indoors? And have you seen the renderings for this place? It looks like the Furniture Mall of Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, I'll rebuff your statement there, and I think that when municipalities are putting as much money as they're putting into this, they want to get as much money out of it. And I think if you put a regular stadium there, you can't hold as many events. It's all about the money that it's going to bring in if you're using public money, or everything's about money. And unfortunately, that's how things are. Like the Commanders, they want to go back to RFK. They want to build a dome stadium so they can have everything. They can make the money, because you can't build a stadium without public funding mostly.
Yeah, no,
in the world that we're in right now.
I understand what you're saying.
And you have to make the money back somehow. And they're like, well, we can have all this. We can have WWE. We can have all this stuff coming. We can make sure that
part of the sales pitch in Kansas City is we can get a Final Four.
Yes, Final Four. We can make sure that this stuff happens because it'll be indoors.
And I get that that's the sales pitch, but there have been real economic impact studies done on this. The impact of a new stadium is not nearly as significant to the communities that the stadium is built in and near than the owners of the stadium always suggest. It is always less impact. Like it would be great if there were really a significant benefit financially for a community to decide, okay, yeah, we're gonna spend our tax dollars to build this new stadium. At the end of the day, though, there's really not. It's civic pride at the end of the day. And that is, I mean, that's not nothing. That is, even if that's not something you count in dollars and cents, like you'd rather have a team than not have a team. Cleveland would rather have a team than not have a team because they know what it's like not to have a team. So I understand your argument, and I think it's a fair argument, and I think it's probably correct, but I do think that the impact of a new stadium, we're going to bring in all of these events, and it's going to be great economic impact for Kansas City or for Cleveland or D.C. or wherever. That is always overstated, and there are studies out there that back this. That is always overstated. So, buyer beware, voter beware on that. I just, from an aesthetics perspective, am disappointed that we're going to get a dome and not even an attractive looking one when you see the renderings in a suburb, and we're going to lose a team that once played in front of the dog pound at the Mistake by the Lake. That's just it aesthetically. I don't like it. I don't care for dome. I don't care for football under dome stadiums. Next headline, Spencer.
Yeah, we're going to have some good news here for some guy that you watch on TV on Sundays during football season. It's one of the greatest players to ever play in the NFL. That has this morning, according to Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, ESPN confirmed to him that Randy Moss is expected to make a full-time return to NFL Sunday Countdown this football season. He was diagnosed last November with the bile duct cancer, and he missed the final 2 months of the season, but returned for the Super Bowl. So glad to see that Randy Moss will be back at the NFL Sunday Countdown desk starting in September.
Yeah, definitely happy to see that. Randy Moss, one of my all-time favorite players to watch, just, again, from an aesthetic and from a dominance perspective. And, yes, glad to hear he is doing well health-wise. It was a pretty scary deal, and it will be nice to see him back on the desk, no question about that. One last thing to get to. We'll make this quick because we won't go through every last move. I don't really have a lot of opinions on like the Pat Connaughton trade. But NBA free agency opened about this time yesterday. So we're 24 hours in to NBA free agency. There aren't any like big deal free agents that are going to change teams. The most impactful move today, former Pacers big man Miles Turner stunningly signing a 4-year contract with the Milwaukee Bucks as the Bucks scramble to try and keep a contending team around their star Giannis Antetokounmpo. As a move that makes the money work to add Turner, the Bucks will waive and stretch the contract and defer the contract of Damian Lillard, who tore his Achilles tendon in the first round of this year's playoffs and is likely to miss the entire 2025-26 season. So great move for the Bucks. Miles Turner is a really good player. It breaks your heart for the Pacers, who I was talking about this with Brendan off the air today. They'd have been better off just losing Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Because if they lost Game 6 of the NBA Finals, they would have looked at it and said, hey, we really pushed the Thunder in this series. We got everybody under contract for next year except Turner. Let's run it back. Let's do something reasonable with Miles Turner. Let's get it done. Let's keep him in Indiana, and let's make another run at the title next year. Now 2 of their 3 best players aren't going to play next season. And one of them is just gone, never going to play again. The other is going to be coming off of an Achilles tear. And it will not be a shock if the Pacers never again reach the heights that they were 1 game away from reaching in this year's NBA Finals. And that's a punch to the gut. For a franchise in a great basketball city that's never won a championship, they just should have lost Game 6. I mean, they won Game 6 by 30 at home, and it was a great crowd. I'm sure everybody leaving the arena that night was glad that it happened. But if you could hop in a time machine, I bet every Pacer fan would say, yeah, man, let's lose Game 6.
Yeah.
Just should have lost Game 6. Also, Michael Porter Jr. got traded from the Nuggets to the Brooklyn Nets. Nuggets have gotten a lot better, by the way. I'm gonna get me to a break before I say some real reckless stuff about the 2025-26 Denver Nuggets. We got timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk some Chiefs football as we count down to kickoff. 66 days away for the Chiefs. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. .535 here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Spencer hanging out with you. Taking you up to 6 o'clock. We'll hand it to regular programming from there. Royals baseball coming up tonight. Pregame at 8. First pitch at 8:40 from Seattle. Text line's open, 785-272-9429. YouTube chat also open on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Ryan, resident Nuggets fan in the YouTube chat, trying to egg me on. I'm going to say some really reckless stuff about the 2025-26 Nuggets. They've added Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway Jr., and they brought back Cowboy Bruce Brown. I think it might be a better roster than the team that won the title 3 years ago. I'm just saying.
So what you're saying is you're already booking a day that you're taking off.
I just want everybody
next year, so you're taking your son to the parade.
Yes, correct. I want everybody to know that I'll be taking a week off in mid-June, so Asher and I can go to Civic Center Park in downtown Denver and be at the parade. Yes, I missed the first one. I'm not missing the next one. Take a week off. We'll make that the family vacation. Ryan, yes, you can hitch a ride to the parade with me. I can only fit like one other person in the car, but yes, you may come with me. Let's get into some football, shall we? It is our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. We are 66 days away from the Chiefs and the Chargers opening the season in Brazil. Mike Caliendo wears number 66 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And technically speaking, it's a competition between Caliendo and Kingsley Suamataia for the starting left guard spot for the 2025 Chiefs. But Kingsley's got a pretty big edge, and it would be a real surprise to see anyone other than Suamataia playing left guard in Brazil on September 5th. Mike Caliendo's Pro Football Focus grades last year were not good. I was a little curious because I thought, as I remember it, and when we watch football, you and me and every one of you listening, when we watch football, we are probably not intently watching the finer points of offensive line play on every snap. We're watching the ball, right? We ball watch. That's what you do when you watch sports, generally speaking. So my impression of Mike Caliendo from the time he entered the starting lineup when Joe Thuney kicked out to left tackle to about the opening coin toss of Super Bowl 59 was, Caliendo's done okay. He's been fine. Yeah, has he been spectacular? No, but he's been all right. Like he's held his own. He's been what you would expect an undrafted free agent pressed into that role to be. Like, undrafted guy out of Western Michigan.
I would say serviceable.
Yeah, I would. That's a good word for it. Then obviously it took a severe wrong turn over the next 60 minutes of football.
But so did a lot of stuff.
It did. Like, he was not the only one to have a bad game. I'm not here to kick more dirt on Mike Caliendo for having a bad Super Bowl 59 because, like, he and 45 other guys had a bad Super Bowl 59.
Including the biggest star on the team.
Right.
Who actually literally said so in a podcast that came out today. Travis Kelce was on Bustin' with the Boys after Tight End University.
Uh-huh.
And they asked him, like, would he have potentially thought about retiring if they had won the Super Bowl? He said, he basically said he played like trash and that he didn't want to go out on that.
No, I think that is honestly the primary reason he's back, because he wasn't happy with how he played. Yeah. Mahomes obviously wasn't happy with nobody was. They got annihilated in the Super Bowl. So it's a terrible last impression to leave, a last taste to leave for 2024. And that included Caliendo, who, again, up until that point, kind of had the impression that he had been fine at left guard. Pro Football Focus would like to disabuse you of that notion. They graded him 114th out of 136 qualifying offensive guards in the NFL last year. 102nd overall in pass blocking and 129th in run blocking. And again, Pro Football Focus is only part of an evaluation of a player. It's one person or one service's opinion, and it's contextual. Like, he was a left guard playing next to a left tackle who wasn't really a left tackle. That's a tough spot for him to be in. But at the very least, that's one tape source that didn't really like what they saw from Mike Caliendo. The other thing about left guard that I thought was really interesting, when we had Matt Derrick on Friday's show, we were talking about Kingsley at left guard and where the Chiefs were kind of lining up at that position. But he mentioned that, there's a chance that Hunter Norzad's actually the best left guard on this team. And that would be fairly stunning, because Norzad was obviously a 5th-round pick out of Penn State last year, so a third-day pick. Didn't see him get on the field, but for, some special team stuff. He played 31 offensive snaps last year. So, if they really really liked Hunter Norzad, maybe they would have elevated him on the depth chart over a guy that they didn't draft. Typically, that's how it works, right? When the depth chart is often ordered in terms of how invested are we in your success.
Yeah.
And they used a draft pick on Norzad. They used a plane ticket on Mike Caliendo to acquire him. Now, Caliendo, obviously, a little bit more NFL experience, been with the team longer, all that. That's part of it. But if Norzad had really been, worth a look, he would have gotten a look. And he didn't really get that extended look. But that, I thought, was really interesting because I think it does suggest that the Chiefs ultimately don't view Caliendo as a starting option. They view him as a swing offensive lineman. And you know what that is for an undrafted free agent? That's a really good outcome. If that's what Mike Caliendo is, if he is a swing lineman in the National Football League, a guy who can start a game or two and perform okay, that's a great outcome for a guy you didn't draft. That's a win for the scouting department. That's a win for your coach, Andy Heck, at the position. They've already gotten 25 NFL games out of Mike Caliendo. More than you ever expect from an undrafted free agent. But I do think they're in some trouble if he's got to start extended games next year. Because if he's got to start extended games, that means they wasted a second-round pick on Kingsley Sumatai.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, that's what that becomes. And that becomes this guy, okay, we've moved him off of the position we drafted him to play, and now we've tried him at this new position, and it's not working. And we got to go back to Mike. If they have to go back to the Mike Caliendo well this coming season, I don't think that bodes particularly well. Certainly not for Kingsley Sumatai. And Caliendo, lunch pail backup, he'll hold his own. He'll do what he can. And there's no, he could get better. He's 27, but on third NFL season, he could get better. But the best case scenario continues to be Kingsley at left guard. And if he can pick it up in a hurry. Remember, there was that report after Super Bowl 59 is they had serious discussion about putting Kingsley in the Super Bowl and benching Caliendo. They were very close to doing it before deciding, you know what, that's not fair to the kid. He's only played one NFL game at that spot. We're not going to do that to him. We're just going to, ride this out. They were probably down big at the time, kind of knew what time it was. So I think that Mike Caliendo can hold his head high about the NFL career that he's carved out at number 66 for the Kansas City Chiefs, but it will not be, I think, a particularly welcome sign if he's got to play 21% of the offensive snaps like he did last year. We'll take another break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Royals, Mariners tonight. We'll bring you the lineups next. 546 here on 580 Sports Talk. Kansas City Royals going to try and get right in Seattle tonight. Lost the opener of that 4-game series 6-2 last night. Michael Wacha gave up 5 runs in 5 innings. Did you make it to the final out, Spencer?
Yes, but no. It was on. I was doing laundry.
It counts.
I saw the game ended.
Okay. Hey,
I was checked in the bottom of the 8th,
mm-hmm.
and I said, it is like 10:20 or what was it, 10:30 something, and it was the bottom of the 8th. I'm like, wow. I'm gonna be able to get my sportscast done and go to bed.
If you like a fast ball game, the Royals are giving you a lot of those.
And then I heard it's the last out or something. That's the last out the Royals have lost. And I'm like, okay.
I love watching baseball. I'll watch any 2 teams play. I will. It's my favorite sport. You guys who've been listening to this show long enough, guys and gals listening to this show, you know that's true about me. I love baseball. And I'll watch any ball game, and I'll be happy to watch a ball game. It's not a lot of fun watching the Kansas City Royals right now. It's especially not fun watching them at the plate because you just feel like they don't have a chance. Like, unless they can string a bunch of singles together, you just don't feel like they've got a real shot to build an inning, to build a rally, to put up a big number. And so if they're not going to put up a big number, like they took the early lead last night, that was really good. In fact, hey, early lead, Wacha looked sharp early. You know, you've kind of felt good up 1-0 there in the 4th. And then Arozarena homered, and then later on he would homer again. But even an early lead with this Royals team doesn't feel good because you feel like, all right, well, they got one of their like 2 or 3, and they got to white knuckle it for the rest of the ball game. Like tonight, Michael Lorenzen on the mound for the Royals, 4-8, 491 earned run average. You got shutout ball in you, Michael, because you might need it.
Yeah.
Michael Lorenzen, though, no stranger to outfields that can't hit. We've talked about how miserable the Royals outfield in particular has been offensively this year. The melange of players that includes MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe and John Rave and Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, Jack Caglione, all those guys. Royals outfielders have just been miserable this year. The worst hitting outfield of the century so far, worst hitting outfield the last 25 years, the 2015 Cincinnati Reds. Michael Lorenzen was a rookie on that team. Let's remember some guys, shall we? Royal great Billy Hamilton had a 563 OPS on that team. Jay Bruce hit 26 home runs, also hit just 226. Marlon Byrd, 37 years old, still kicking on that team. He was right around league average. It was all the backups that made that outfield particularly gross. Skip Schumacher, who's now a manager, played a bunch of games, didn't hit a lick. Jason Bourgeois in center field, terrible, 625 OPS. Brennan Bosch went 13 for 89. Adam Duvall, before he got good, had a few at-bats. A gentleman named Ryan Lamar went 2 for 25. That's the worst offensive outfield of the century. This Royals outfield giving it a run for their money.
Yeah.
And in both cases, Michael Lorenzen could have said, hey, I might be a better hitter than some of these guys. I don't know. Lorenzen hasn't swung a bat regularly in some time. That may no longer be true. The lineup backing Lorenzen tonight, Jonathan India will lead off and DH this evening, followed by Bobby Witt Jr. at short. Manny Pasquantino moving up in the order to the 3-hole. Michael Garcia drops to the cleanup spot at third base, and Salvador Perez will bat 5th and catch. Jack Caglione's back in the field tonight. He'll play right field and bat 6th. Nick Lofton will play second base and bat 7th. John Rave batting 8th in left. Kyle Isbell batting 9th in left. It really just, you look at the OPSs from 5 to 9, 655, 460, 583, 510, 642. It paints a grim picture. Emerson Hancock, the law firm, I don't know that that's his official nickname. It should be if it's not. He is 3-4 in the year, 5.3 earned run average. Still a young arm, only 26. This is his 3rd big league season. Hasn't really found sustained success. He was a pretty well-regarded prospect coming up. Seems like he might just kind of be a guy, back of the rotation guy. Hey, they keep the world turning too. Again, this is where I would say, hey, doesn't miss a lot of bats, gives up some home runs, high ERA. Maybe this is a game the Royals could bust out. But I'm done predicting that. I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah. I'm 85 games in, and I've been fooled for the last time. The lineup for the Mariners tonight, J.P. Crawford at short will lead off, followed by Julio Rodriguez in center, and Big Yeeks, Cal Raleigh, doing the catching. Jorge Polanco will DH tonight. He didn't play last night. The switch hitter will bat cleanup. Then Randy Arozarena, who hit the 2 dingers last night, playing left field, batting 5th. Luke Raley is into the lineup tonight, left-handed hitting first baseman, batting 6th. Dominic Canzone in right field. Ben Williamson is the third baseman. I don't know who that is. Just real honest. Good for you, Ben. 61 games this year, hitting 254. I never heard of that guy in my life. Cole Young is the second baseman. He had a couple of rockets last night. He is batting 9th.
Turns out his mom is from the same town that Olivia's from.
Cole Young?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How about that? He's went to North Allegheny High School, Wexford, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's not the town, though.
Okay.
His mom's from up north.
Okay. In Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Pennsylvania?
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? It's funny to small world, right?
Yeah.
That's how they'll line up tonight in Seattle. Again, 8 o'clock pregame coverage, 8:40 first pitch here on the Royals Baseball Network on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9.
Emerson's nickname is Hanny, but I like your nickname better.
Yeah, mine is a little more imaginative.
Yes.
That's a terrible nickname. That's a hockey nickname.
Apparently, in the minors, they called him Mini Cerberus.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's no context to that, but
his middle name is Christian. He is Emerson Christian Hancock. That is a
law firm.
That is a law
100%.
firm. That is a law firm. It will shock you to hear he is from the state of Georgia.
He played at UGA.
Yeah. He's a Bulldog. He was a first round pick, number 6 overall. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we will wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a final word. Spencer Dupuis, take it away.
Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. He gets that $1.193 million every year on July 1st until 2038, I think it is. And he's getting it tax-free because he's living in the great state of Florida. But more importantly to me, to my fandom, it is Max Scherzer Day. He's getting paid $15 million as part of his deferred payments until 2028. Without Max Scherzer, there would have been no Washington Nationals World Series in 2019. To that, I say thank you, Max Scherzer. Enjoy a nice steak dinner tonight.
Yeah,
with your $15 million on your disabled list in Toronto.
He meant a little more to the Nationals in their history than Bobby Bonilla did to the Mets. Like, yeah. I know this has been a running joke for a very long time. Like, because Bobby Bonilla retired like a very long time ago. When did Bobby Bonilla play his last big league game? 2001.
I was barely alive.
Yeah, he's been retired almost as long as you've been like a person.
Yeah.
So It's been a running joke for a very long time. The Mets have deferred. I think it's like $1.2 million, something like that. And he gets it till like 2031, whatever it is. But now there's like a preponderance of these deferrals. Now it's just like
Chris Davis is making $9 million today, and a bunch of people are making one something.
Yeah, the Shohei Ohtani's mega deal with the Dodgers got a lot of attention because it had a preposterous amount of deferred money on there that's going to be parceled out. So Bobby Bonilla Days kind of lost its luster a little bit, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But shout out to Bobby Bo. Better, too bad he was a punchline because he's a really good player. 6-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, 2,000 hits, 287 home runs. Really good player, Bobby Bonilla.
One final thing. I will be out, guys. See you next week.
That's right. Yes, Spencer's going to be out. So have a wonderful trip back home.
This is an announced time off.
Yes, enjoy your time off, and we'll see you next week. Final word for me. I'll make it quick. I would just like to enjoy watching a Royals game. I would just like to turn on Kansas City Royals baseball and enjoy a game. I don't think it's too much to ask, but apparently it is with a lineup that just doesn't hit the ball hard. Like, that's the biggest problem with the Royals right now. You want me to sum it up? I can sum it up in 2 seconds. They don't hit the ball hard. That's the biggest problem. Maybe they can start tonight. I hope. That'll do it for us. We're back tomorrow, 3 to 6. For Spencer, I'm Dan. Good night.